No, I'm just kidding. You guys have a Bible? Take your Bible. Take your Bible and turn to Luke 14. Luke 14. We should have handed out some notes. If you don't have them, I don't know if we have extras, but maybe you can put your hand up and someone can help you out. Luke 14, we're going to be talking about the meaning and the cost of discipleship over the next couple sessions. I'm going to start by reading the story, and then we're going to talk about it. Luke 14, starting in verse 25, here's what it says. Now great crowds accompanied Jesus, and he turned and he said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and his mother, his wife, his children, his brothers and sisters, and yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down, count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation, he is not able to finish. All who see it begin and attempt to mock it, saying, this man began to build, was not able to finish. Or what king going out to encounter another king in war will sit down first and deliberate whether he is able with 10,000 to meet and those against him with 20,000? And if not, while the other is yet a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks terms of peace. I'm in verse 33 now. Therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. And then the chapter wraps up. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is of no use for either soil or for manure in the pile. It is thrown away, and then Jesus warns us all with these words. Let's put them up on the screen. Let's put them up on the screen. There we go. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. In other words, pay attention. Listen up. Use your ears. I had a problem doing that a while back. I grew up playing soccer in Europe, and they said it was my cleats or whatever it was. But when I became an adult, on my right foot, I had what's called hammer toes. You know what hammer toes are? Your toes curl up a little bit. It hurts like heck. And you can't jog and you can't do much. And I went to my doctor and said, we can fix that. That's easy. You know, he was a guy that worked on feet, and he said he set an appointment for me to come have surgery. He said, I'll have you in and out for 25 minutes, 3 toes. He gave me a date. He said, but because it's such a small surgery, what I'm going to do is I don't know when I'm going to do your surgery during the day. So just come in the morning, and I'll fit you in between any of the big surgeries, okay? No problem. So I come in, and he tells me, make sure the one thing I want you to do is don't eat any food after 11 p.m. the previous night. Okay, so I come in, 6:30 in the morning, I tell them my name, they send me to this little room. First thing the nurse tells me to do is to say, okay, sir, what we're going to need you to do when I leave is take out your clothes and put this on. And they give you like this little mini skirt piece of paper. You guys ever worn one of these suckers? Why they can't spend a little more and give you a gown, I don't know. But it's very awkward. You're wearing this sucker, waiting. 20, 25 minutes later, a nurse comes in and says, Mr. Fossil, yes, I have 2 questions for you. Did you eat anything last night? No, I did not. Question number 2, are you wearing any underwear? Well, yes, I am. Very good. And off she goes. I kid you not, it's a true story. 30 minutes later, another nurse comes in. She says, I have 2 questions for you, Mr. Fossil. She goes, question number 1, what did you have for dinner last night? Trying to trick me, right? I didn't eat anything for dinner or for breakfast. She says, question number 2, are you wearing any underwear? And I said, yes I am, but can I ask you, why does everyone want to know if I'm wearing any underwear? And she goes, oh, it's what we do. We want to make sure that whatever the patient is wearing when they go into the OR, they are also wearing it when they come out of the OR. And I said, wait 1 second. Before you gas me up and put me under, I want to know something. Is this a problem in this hospital? Are people going in with their underwear and coming out and like, oh my goodness, they're gone? If it is, I'm not sure I want my hammer toes fixed. And this is all she did. And she left, which actually made me more nervous. Another 30 minutes later, another nurse comes in. Now this nurse, she was a southern black nurse. She had a very thick southern accent, okay? I'm not even pretending to try and say her accent. But she didn't even give me eye contact. You know, she looked at her, whatever she had, and she says, Mr. Fossil, I got 2 questions for you. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, here we go again. But she messed me up. She went in a different direction. First question she asked was this: what type is your surgery? Now, because of her accent, she asked, what type is your surgery? I thought she said, what time is your surgery? And I said, I don't have a clue. The doctor just told me to come in and he tell me when I got here. She says, you don't know? I said, no. He just told me to come in and they do it whenever you could. And she looked at me like, you are the dumbest white man I have ever seen. And right at that moment, I don't know what came over me that I just thought to say, but in case you're wondering, I am wearing my underwear. She bolted out of the room. My problem was that I wasn't listening correctly. And Jesus tells us a story, and he's going to go through some passages in Luke for the next 4 sessions. And he says, you better listen up, because I'm about ready to slap you upside the head. It's weird that I would say that, because normally the kind of people that Jesus would slap upside the head are the Pharisees, the scribes, the teachers of the law that didn't like Jesus. They were trying to trip him up. But what we see in the very first phrase of our passage, verse 25, great crowds accompanying him. So these were the Jesus groupies. These are the ones that liked Jesus. These are the ones that were following him. They would follow him, listen to him speak. They'd pack up their tent. They'd follow him, listen to him speak. They were following him. And he's just about ready to let him have it. These people were pretty much just like us. They were people that say, thumbs up to Jesus. I'm good with Jesus. And basically, what he says to them is the title of the talk today. I know it's not in the notes, but this is the talk. He asked this question. Let's put the next slide up there. Are you a fan or a follower of mine? Are you a fair weather fan, or are you a lifelong, fully devoted follower committed to me? What are you? See, we in Northern California always have fair weather, so it's always easy to go to a ball game. But if you've ever lived on the East Coast, or you've always ever lived in the Midwest, you know that sometimes it's incredibly hot or incredibly cold. And that's where the term fair weather fan comes from. We don't go because we don't like the weather. But some fans, you know, we're all fans of certain teams. We love them, we cheer for them when they're doing good. When they're not doing good, we don't even watch them on TV. When the season's going, we're all for them. When the season's not in, we don't even think about it. Are you a fan of mine, he says, or are you a follower of mine? Because I'm just telling you, if you choose to be a fan, he says this one sentence over and over and over again, and this is the sentence, put it up on the screen. He says, you cannot be my disciple. Now, you go, well, I'm not a disciple, I'm a Christian. The only problem with that is that the word that Jesus used for Christian is disciple. We talk about being Christians. That word is only used 3 times in the New Testament. The word disciple is used 269 times. It was the primary word used by Jesus to refer to people who are fully committed and followers of his. You cannot be my disciple if what you want to be is a fan. A fair weather fan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break down for you this morning, and then we're going to extend it over the next couple sessions in the next three chapters, is what is the true meaning and cost of a disciple? What's the meaning and cost? Now, if you have notes, you can jot this down. If not, I just want you to think and try and nail something down in your head that you're going to do. Okay? Here's the first thing. Let's put it on the screen. I'll change the colors for tomorrow. The projector's a little bit hard, but the first one is this. You need to love God more than anyone or anything else. Now, Jesus has said this just a little bit earlier in Luke 10. We know that verse to say, in verse 27, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. He says it positively. Now he says the exact same thing, but negatively. He uses hyperbole. You know what hyperbole is from your English class? It's when you give an exaggeration to make a point. When I say, man, that guy is as big as a house, that's hyperbole. I don't mean he's literally as big as a house. I'm trying to use it for exaggeration to say he's huge. When I say, I love these cupcakes, I can eat 1 million of them, I don't literally mean I'm going to eat 1 million cupcakes. I'm using hyperbole. So when he says, in these first couple verses, you want to be my disciple, you want to be a committed follower, okay, you need to hate mom and dad. You need to hate, oh, get cut off on hate mom and dad. You need to hate mom and dad. He's using hyperbole. He doesn't literally mean, hey, mom and dad. He's saying, in comparison, when people look at you, they're going to see that you love me so much that in comparison, it almost seems like you hate them. Actually, the Greek word hate literally means just to love less or value less. So what I want you to do is I want you to love me more than anyone or anything else. And I don't want you to be afraid to show it. And oh, by the way, let me take you on just a little tangent. One of the primary ways that we do it as followers of Jesus Christ is this thing called worship. Worship is nothing more than expressing your love to God. And I'm just going to tell you, as a pastor of a church that many of you go to, very similar, we are way too white in our worship. And what I mean by that is we are far too safe. I'm just not a good singer. I don't like to raise my hands. I don't like to clap. Really. I want you to love me more than anyone or anything else, and I don't want you to be afraid to show it. David in the Old Testament was so crazy with worship. He was dancing crazy. His wife was looking at him from the veranda, thought he had lost it. And I'm just telling you, it's one way, one exercise to say, I love you. You go, well, he knows I love him. How would that work with my wife? On our anniversary, on Valentine's Day, and on our birthday. Yeah, no, I'm not going to give you a card, babe. I'm not going to give you any flowers. You know I love you. I don't have to say it. How would that work? Not too good, would it? And it's the same thing with God. I just want you to, I want to hear you say it. I don't want you to be afraid to express it. Now, in case you've missed it, what he's really doing here is restating one of the Ten Commandments. You go, I don't remember that being one of the Ten Commandments. It's because we misunderstand one of the Ten Commandments. There's a Ten Commandment that talks about you shall not have any idols. You go, I don't have any idols. I don't have any little statues in my living room. The problem is that that's not the correct and literal definition of an idol. This is what an idol is. Let's put it on the screen. Idolatry is anything that I value or love more than God. Anytime you value or love something more than you love and value God, that's an idol. Now, I know I'm not supposed to say this. I'm a pastor, but I have all kinds of idols. Oh, I brought a couple of my idols to show you, okay? Things that at times in my life I have valued more than I value God. This is my daughter Julia's soccer ball. I love soccer. I'm a fanatic over soccer. I'm a sports fan as it is, but I go crazy over this sport. In fact, I grew up in Spain. This is my favorite team. Guess what? I'm wearing one of their shirts tonight. I got one of my idols on the back of my shirt. I love this team so much. There are Sundays. I'm the pastor in between services. You know what I'm doing? I pull out my phone. I see how they're doing. They're winning. I love FC Barcelona. Of course, one of my idols. This is an idol that we accept in America. These are my girls. I love my girls. Aren't they cute? I want to show you a picture of Josh. Some of you know Josh. What a stunning picture. Okay. Now, one of my other idols, right, is signified by this right here. I love my woman. I do. She's hot. I love her. Guys, have you ever valued women or a woman more than you value God? Be honest. What else do I got in here? I got a couple more. How about technology? You ever value technology more than you value God? I got another one. This is a big one in America. How about this? You ever value money more than you value God? Huh? I'm going to show you my all-time favorite idol. Now, not all of you are going to be able to see this. See what this is? Right there. I love that guy right there. Can you guys see him a little bit? He's wearing thick black glasses. This is one of my favorite idols right here. Do you ever value yourself more than you value God? You know what he says? I got a problem with that. Because an authentic follower of mine, a true disciple, loves me more than he loves and values anything else. Now, is there anything wrong with me being a fanatic for FC Barcelona, or loving my wife and my kids to death, or being preoccupied about how I look in my health? Nothing. But it better not be number one. And if it is, you cannot be my disciple. He goes on. Second thing, write this down. You need to do whatever is necessary to kill sin. Verse 27. In verse 27, he says this: whoever does not bear his own cross or carry his own cross, follow me, cannot be my disciple. Now, I got to tell you, I heard sermons and Christians talk about this in this verse. Yeah, I got a bad knee. I got a horrible back. It's just the cross that I got to bear for Jesus. Or they say it like this: you know, I work at this place. I haven't got a promotion because I'm a Christian. It's the cross I got to bear. Maybe not so much you guys, but I talk to other youth that go to maybe public schools, and they go, I get teased as a Christian. It's the cross that I got to bear. Or missionaries that go overseas, I'm going to have to suffer for Jesus. It's the cross that I got to bear. All those things may be true, but I think we're missing the main point of this verse. The main point is the hint that Jesus gives. See, many times Jesus says things, and the disciples were like, we don't have a clue what he's saying. Until after his whole ministry was done, and it all made sense. When Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me, they didn't know he was going to go to the cross. They didn't know he was going to die on the cross. But after he did, I bet you this verse, they're like, oh, that's what it meant. That's the hint. I'm going to take a cross. And he says, follow me. Where did he go? Well, yeah, he went to that place called Golgotha, that hill outside of Jerusalem. Good. What did he do there? Yeah, he died. I know that. He died. Why did he die? Romans tells us that Jesus died on the cross to defeat the presence and the power of sin in our lives. And he says, okay, that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to do the exact same thing I did. Take your cross, go to the hill, and do whatever you have to do to kill the power and the presence of sin in your life. Do exactly what I did. Kill sin in your life. That's what a true disciple of mine does. That's what an authentic follower of mine does. Let me tell you, the problem is some of us don't take sin that seriously. We don't think it's that big of a deal. Several years ago, in fact, every year, Sandy and I, or at least I, go to Africa to teach a pastor's conference there. A couple years ago, I taught a pastor conference in South Africa. Before we did that, we went to see Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. An awesome thing. If you ever see Niagara Falls, Victoria Falls is like 6 times larger. Awesome. So we get there. First day, we go on the $30 tour. We see it. We go back to the hotel, and we realize, oh my goodness, we are a quarter of a mile, half a mile from Victoria Falls. So what we did for the 3 days that we were there, we would have breakfast. Before we would go on the tour for the day, we would walk to Victoria Falls. I mean, how can you not do that? So we're walking to Victoria Falls. And as we're walking to Victoria Falls, we hear in the jungle, right? We hear some ruffling. We hear some noise. And we look in, and this is what we saw. I'll put it on the screen. Can you guys see those? Elephants. There were 8 elephants right there. And I'm like, baby, take my picture. And I'm needing to see me take my picture. It was incredible. Next day, we had breakfast. What do? We go back to walk to Victoria Falls, and we're walking, and we hear the ruffling again. And this time we know what it is. But at that time, that day, we were walking with some of the locals, some of the natives of Zimbabwe. They were going to the bus stop or something, and the minute they heard the rustling, they started saying in their native language the word for elephant. Mumiko! 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 And they started sprinting. And I'm like, baby, go, quick. She's like, what? No, the natives are running, let's run. Let's go. Ask questions later. So we asked questions. I said, what's up with the running? What's up with the, elephants and all scared? And we were told, and it was explained to us, that elephants are incredibly dangerous in the wild. They're not like circus elephants. And they have been known to run people down and injure them, even kill them. Every year around the world, there are 500 deaths that elephants cause on humans. And we were told, stay away from elephants, and then they said this. especially when they flare their ears out. And I remember thinking, as long as I outrun my wife, I should be okay. Why did I do this? Why did I do this? I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know. When I was told, we didn't do it. And that's the same attitude that some of us have towards sin. We just don't realize how deadly it is. James says that if you continue in sin, eventually something in you will die. I have seen marriages die because of sin. I have seen people's finances die because of sin. I have seen their health go down the tube because of sin. Or at the very least, something in your soul will die. So I'm going to ask you, what sin in your life do you need to kill? Now, I know how the Holy Spirit works. He probably just put something in your mind right now. It may not even be a big one, but He put something in your mind. You better kill it. You better do something about it. Third point, write this down. You need to finish strong, don't quit. Finish strong, don't quit. In verses 28 and 30, he says a rather strange story. He talks about this guy that's building, and in fact, this is where we get the verse or the phrase for this conference and your theme for the year. Verse 28. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down, count the cost, there's the phrase, whether he has enough to complete it. Otherwise, when he has laid the foundation, he is not able to finish. All who see it will begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and he was not able to finish, and that's the point. As a follower of Jesus Christ, he says, I don't just want you to start well, I want you to finish well. I don't want you to start building a house, lay the foundation, put up the framing, and then not finish. I don't want you to go into the kitchen, start to cook a meal for your family or for your friends, leave it half finished, no one gets to eat. I don't want you to start a school project and get halfway and not finish. I don't want you to join a team or a club and not finish. I don't want you to start a painting and not finish. I don't want you to start a race. He uses this analogy a lot in the New Testament. I don't want you to start a race and not finish. Finish. I'm not just into you starting your Christian walk. I want you to finish your Christian walk or your Christian race. Do you guys like the Olympics? Yeah. I love the Olympics. I love watching the Olympics. It is weird, though, that every 4 years, for 2-3 weeks, I end up watching sports I would never watch any other time of the year. Badminton. They're playing hockey with sticks on grass. Synchronized swimming. If any other time in the year, my wife comes home and sees me watching synchronized swimming, she's like, what is wrong with you? But when it's the Olympics, it's like the trump card. You can watch any sport and it's no big deal, it's still made. Of course, one of the biggest things was track and field. Usain Bolt, fastest Jamaican runner, incredible runner. As I'm watching these track and field events, I started to think about a story that I had heard from the Olympics, 1968. Mexico City Olympic Stadium. The marathon had just been completed 2 hours previously. Mamo Waldi from Ethiopia had been awarded the gold medal. They had brought the Ethiopian flag up. They had played the national anthem. Everybody had cheered. There was 2,000 people left in Mexico City's Olympic Stadium. And all of a sudden, in the entrance to the stadium, they heard whistles and sirens. And the 2,000 people left looked to see what it was. And this is what they saw. Put it on the screen. They saw a lone figure with the colors of Tanzania come limping into the stadium. His name was John Stephen Okorie. And earlier in the race, he had fallen. He'd taken a bad tumble, requiring basically stitches. He was jacked up. But he got up and he kept going. And 2 hours and 20 minutes after the race was done, he hobbled around the stadium. When people came to help him, of course, he waved them off. Because the rule in Olympic sports is anytime you assist an athlete or a runner, that runner is disqualified. And he kept moving until he collapsed over the line. At which point in time, medical personnel rushed in, helped him, re-stitched areas, fixed them all up. They worked on him for about 45 minutes, after which the press was able to talk to him. And here's the first question. Why? Why did you keep running? I mean, everyone would have understood. You are messed up. You can barely run. Why did you just quit? And John Stephen Akhwari said this: because my country did not send me 7,000 miles around the world to start this race. They sent me to finish this race. And your God feels the same thing about your spiritual race. As young people, you are just starting the race of your spiritual faith. And I'm telling you, he says, my true followers, my disciples, don't just start well. They finish well. And you need to know that over the course of your lifetime, there will be times when you will fall on the ground and crack your head and your knee open and you'll feel like giving in. And you will feel like quitting. And I'm here to remind you what your Jesus and your Lord says. Get back up and keep moving. Don't quit. Two more. The fourth thing he says is surrender everything to God. He uses this rather strange story of two kings. Here's the point. You're a king and Jesus is a king. You as a king evaluate and you think, I've got 10,000 people in my army, he's got 20,000 people. He's got more men, he's got higher power, he's guaranteed to win. If you're in that situation, what should you do? Well, what you should do is surrender and join his army. Because if you choose to fight against Jesus the King, you're going to get your butt whooped. That's the point of these verses. Surrender everything you have to Jesus. Everything you have to Jesus. All those things, surrender to Jesus. More likely than not, he's going to give them right back to you. Every once in a while, you ask for one of them back. But he says, it's all mine. It's all mine. Those of you who are American history buffs, you guys know who this guy is right here. Put him on the screen. Douglas MacArthur. General Douglas MacArthur, one of the greatest U.S. generals in World War II. What you have, I know you can't see it that great, but the picture at the bottom happened on September the 2nd, 1945, on board USS Missouri. And it was the official surrender between Japan and the United States. And what happened is that General MacArthur signed, and there's all kinds of documents he signed, you see them there. Then the foreign minister for Japan signed the documents. Then 9 other individuals representing the other countries signed. And when it was all done, the Japanese admiral representing the Japanese Imperial Forces approached General MacArthur and extended his hand to shake it. And as the story is told, General MacArthur did not move. And he said very quietly, but very firmly and sternly, your sword first, please. He was still wearing the sword that a lot of the military still even wear today in formal settings. The documents were the formal portion of it, but the sword was the symbolical portion of saying, I'm giving up all my weapons and giving them to you, and we surrender. And it was only after the sword was relinquished to General MacArthur that they shook hands. Your God asks the same from you. Your sword, please. Because some of you are still fighting. And until you surrender everything you have to Jesus, here's what he says. You can't be my disciple. See, the cost of following Jesus is massive. Eventually, we're going to talk about the reward, but it's a massive cost. The last thing, and we're going to wrap up with this. He says, do something useful for God. Do something useful. He ends in verse 34, salt is good, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is of no use either for the soil or for the manure pile. It is thrown away. Salt in those days was used for fertilizer, preservative for meat. They didn't have refrigerators, so they would rub salt on it to preserve it. for a healing agent. If you ever get a cut and you go into the ocean, the salt will heal it quicker. They would use it for a healing agent. And for condiment for food, just like primarily we use it. We put salt and pepper on our food. That's how they use it. The problem is that in those days, the salt wasn't pure. It wasn't pure. And so sometimes it would lose its saltiness. When it lost its saltiness, it was worthless. And Jesus ends this whole passage and he says, don't be worthless. Do something. Be helpful to my kingdom. Don't just sit there. So let me just say, some of us need to remember that that woman that we live with at home is not a maid. She's your mom. So get off the couch and do something. At school, I know you have some assignments and things you have to do, but sometimes you just do it because you're part of a family called Berean. Get up and do something. And if you attend church, do something. You go, well, I'm kind of young. If you can give me one verse that says you are exempt from serving because of your age in this book, I'll take it. The only problem is that typically what I read is sometimes the most mature, godly people in here are your age, not my age. Do something. Did you guys hear about the problem that Pakistan is having? Their roads are so congested that they are requiring on some roads to have multiple passengers, basically like our carpool. You have to have 2 and upwards of 3 people in the car to drive. So they have a new business that is employment opportunities come up. It's called professional passengers. And all you do is you just sit there and wait for someone to drive by and pick you up, and all you do is sit in their car so that they can drive on these roads. That's all you do is sit there. Some of you are like, I'm going to move to Pakistan. Honestly, I know some Christians like that. All they do is sit around and do nothing. Now, I can roll my eyes as a pastor. You know what? God's going to get His work done at my church and your church, irrespective of the people who sit or don't sit. What I'm saying is don't be like one of them. Do something. Do anything productive for the kingdom. Now, let me put the summary up there, and then I'm going to let you go. Let's put it up there to 5 points. God wants you to do these 5 things if you are an authentic follower of Jesus Christ. All 5. Now, I especially want you to try and identify one that you can do better. Love God more than anyone or anything else. Do whatever is necessary to kill sin in my life. Finish the race strong or get back up off the floor. Surrender everything to God or do something useful for God. Last story, and I'm going to send you to your cabins. My family and I, about 6 weeks ago, got back from vacation in New Jersey. While we were in New Jersey, we went to this place called Wildwood. And they had this massive boardwalk right on the beach. If you've ever been to Santa Cruz Boardwalk, the boardwalk in Wildwood is like 6-7 times longer. They've got 3 water parks, roller coasters everywhere. I mean, it's incredible. Games everywhere. So one day, we got the all-day pass for the water parks and went to the water park. Another day, we went all day to all the rides and roller coasters. And when you go to the roller coasters, you know it happens here in California too. Every ride you go on, you sit down, the attendant checks your seatbelt or the harness or the doors, and they make sure that the equipment is correct. And when they do, they look at the person in the booth and they give them the universal sign for we're good to go. What is it? My daughter Julia, the young one in my family, we had fun, and every time we would do it, we'd give each other. Every time we went on a ride, they'd check our harness, check our seatbelt, make sure the equipment is good, look at the booth, and give us the thumbs up. Eventually we got to the biggest, baddest roller coaster on Wildwood's boardwalk. I mean, it's one of these suckers that goes upside down, backward, shoots you like 1,000 miles an hour forward. You don't know what's going on. At the end of the roller coaster, you're like, I don't know what happened, but that was fun. That roller coaster. They had 6 people checking out the roller coaster. They had the biggest harness I've ever worn. Double seatbelt, doors on either side. And the guy was checking us. I was sitting next to my daughter, Jessica. And when it was all done, the guy next to us that had worked on us, the attendant, looked at the booth and he did this. And I looked at Jessica and I said, oh no. And I'm thinking, what does this mean? Does this mean like the harness works but the seatbelts work? We you'll make it back. But before we had a chance to say anything, woof, we were off. Now thank goodness we made it back. It turns out that the guy had probably had to do this 2,000 times a day. He's just getting tired. But I'm going to end my talk by saying this to you. Some of you are looking at that screen and going, yeah, I'll do 2 or 3 of those. I don't know if I can do all 5, but I can do at least 2 or 3. Now, here's what I'm going to say to you. If you make that choice, your relationship with God is going to be this. And you might make it. You might make it around the track. Or for some of you, it's game over. These are not my words, they are His words. You cannot be my disciple unless you do all those 5 things. It's a massive cost. But I'm telling you, it's worth it. It's worth it. Let's close in a word. As heads are bowed and eyes are closed, I want you to take a moment to just allow God, the Holy Spirit, to speak to your heart and to your mind. I'm going to dismiss you.